on there.
It should work right now.
And again. There we go. Now it works.
Okay. Yeah, there's a short delay sometimes. It looks like it was just a little longer than normal. Okay. Well, welcome everyone. Again, our apologies for the technical difficulties, but we're live now. Everything's being recorded, and it looks like lots more people have joined us. So welcome everyone. So again, if you haven't already, do make sure to put your projects in the Etherpad, and we'll be going through them very shortly. Now, we just want to share another thing. We would love to collect feedback from you about your experience at this year's hackathon. We know there are many newcomers. We know there are several people who this is their second hackathon. We also know there's a lot of people who have been around for upwards of 10 plus hackathons. Has anyone been to more than 10 hackathons? You could say something in the chat. No? I think there were a couple in the opening ceremony. So there's some very experienced people here. But we'd love your feedback. So 7, well, that's a lot. Brian says maybe. We would love your feedback. So do share it. I'm just going to post that link again in the chat. This is the chance to continue to iterate and, so that every new release of the hackathon makes people feel, continue to enjoy and feel like it's a useful way to spend a weekend. So this is the feedback link. And then we also just wanted to share some ways to stay involved after the hackathon.
Yes, I'll jump in here. So one of the ways you can do that is with the Small Wiki Toolkits workshops. There will be 2 in the upcoming weeks. One this Thursday about how to maintain bots, and another later this month about using Wikidata query service. So come along and check those out if you're interested in that.
Yeah, and these are really interactive. They're fun ways to learn new skills. So definitely recommend checking those out. The second thing is Developer Portal, which is a relatively new website that will show you all the ways you can get involved with the Wikimedia technical community. It's also translated into a bunch of languages, which is fabulous. And if you speak a language that maybe you don't see that it's translated into, we'd love to add more translations. So do feel free to help, continue to build this out to make contributing even easier for new communities.
We then have Outreachy. There will be a call for mentors and projects for Outreachy coming very soon, like in the next couple of days. So keep an eye on the mailing list to find out more information about that.
Are there any Outreachy alumni here in the room? I know we had several earlier. Finally, social spaces. There is a very active IRC chat channel and Telegram group that are actually bridged. So you kind of just pick whichever one you prefer. But that's where many communities members are. They're talking about what they're working on. They're answering questions. They're working together. So that's really a great place to be in if you want to continue contributing. Okay, so let's move into this showcase, shall we?
Cool. So let's have a look at the Etherpad. Again, Haley has added the Etherpad to the chat, but I will post it again in case if anyone wants to still share their the project that they worked on. Feel free to add it to the list. You can also add things that you worked on that you don't want to present. We can also read it out loud for you if you'd rather not like turn on your camera and everything. But there's still time to add projects if you want. The way this is going to work is, we'll take turns presenting, and we'll read out your name. So if you can turn yourself off mute at that point, and we welcome you to present your project. So the first
one more announcement, Melinda, we are actually really lucky that there was a hackathon that took place in person in India this weekend as well. And while I think it's a little late for them, they have added their projects into the Etherpad. So we'll be able to share those at the end as well. Yes, so exactly. So that we'll be sharing those out towards the end.
Cool. So the first one is assessing article coverage overlap between different language Wikipedias from Darcy is Very Cute.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I share my screen?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Great. So yeah, this was just like projects Lydia suggested. Like we don't really know how different language articles compare in terms of coverage. There's a lot of like individual wiki info on like how many vital articles are being met, how many core articles are being met, what's the good article, featured article status. But there's not really any resources to compare different languages. And so the idea was to use Wikidata to do this. And so there's two main like questions that I tried to work on. I spent one day on each of them. So the first is like working out just with Wikidata information how we can determine like the coverage of a certain language wiki beyond just like the name, the number of the articles it has, like rather looking at the number of articles in some curated list that editors agree that's an important set of articles to have for a wiki. And the second question is, if I look at like all the articles in English Wikipedia and I want to pair them up to like articles in French Wikipedia, I want to see for every article in English, is there one in French? And how many French articles are missing on English articles? And I could say the same like vice versa, like how many French articles are there, but there's no English article. So the idea was to use Sparkle for this. Initially, I thought maybe I could do it with Query because I have experience with Query. Then I learned Sparkle as part of this. And so what I started with was this list. So if I go on like, this is the page for Earth on Wikidata. The thing we want to query is this like Wikipedia entries. So there's a way to query and get the article and the language. And then, so we can get like a set of, for this specific Wikidata item, we can work out which articles and which Wikipedias link to it. But then we also need some sort of reference to decide like what do we actually include. And so this is a list on MetaWiki, the list of I think it's 1,000 articles every Wikipedia should have, and this is how they split it up. And I chose this one because the it actually puts a ID on the Wikidata item that we can filter on. So I don't have to look at the article contents. And from what I could see, there is no way to filter vital articles, but this particular one, there was a way. So yeah, so that's what we're looking for, is this information. So the way that I got that information is this schema about lets me work out which articles are talking about a particular Wikidata item. Then we also want to get the language of the article. So the language ID is like 2 letters and it corresponds to the wiki prefix. To get the label, we have to make it corresponds to the language for Wikipedia. In this case, it's the Wikipedia. And we also have to do like a label translation. So that gives us the Wikidata item, then the article that's talking about the item, and the language of that article based on that prefix. So the next step was to aggregate this. So I did it in a nested query. And the main difference here is instead of just listing the items, I perform an aggregate function. I count the distinct number of items, and they have to be in this list of 1,000 articles that every language should have. Again, this was a list I didn't influence, but it seems like a pretty good reference. And I also make sure that, because it turns out that some of the articles that we get in this list, like this all has Wikipedia, but if I go down here, there's some other things as well. Like there's Wikinews, Wikiquote, Wikibooks. That stuff also gets pulled in the article when we query for like describing an item. So we need to filter those out. And I do that with a substring filter to make sure that it has Wikipedia, not Wikibooks or anything. And the nested query is just to add the label on top of the aggregate. So that's all. And then, so what this gives me is, it gives me a long table. And the way that I think I have the results for this open in, yeah, so this is what it looks like in Wikidata. It's kind of hard to read, like all the names have blurred together. So what I did, I just put it in Google Sheets and I formatted it a bit better. So it's like a bit easier to see, like 3 columns. Okay, so all of these articles have all 1,000. They actually go a bit over. There's 16 extra articles. My theory is that these are like meta articles that get classified. I don't know which ones they are, and it's kind of hard to work out without going through the whole list of the category. So I didn't really worry about it, but we start seeing it drop off like about here, and then I can see like, oh, the Hindi Wikipedia is missing a few, and I can actually work out which ones it's missing. And like you can go down and you could, like, if you wanted to, you could produce like a automated list that shows the missing articles for each language. That might be useful for editing. So yeah, this is the first result that I have. And then, so the second thing I worked on was which languages cover articles and how do they compare. So this is sort of like a more detailed problem statement. If I have some list of articles in English, I want to know how many of those are also in French. And so this is equivalent to saying the number of articles that I have that are in English, and then I just subtract the articles that are in both English and French from that list. And we could also say like the reverse. And in this case, I only need to calculate 3 things. I have to calculate the number of articles in English, I have to calculate the number of articles in French, and I have to calculate the intersection between them. And actually, calculating these two is very similar. So we only need 2 different queries, basically, to do these 2 tasks. But the problem here is actually, how do we choose what set of articles to start with from the beginning? Because as we all know, English Wikipedia has like 6 million articles or something. And it's a bit, basically I get a timeout if I go roughly above like 200,000 in a single query, and I'm looking at like a few different Wikidata fields, it's going to time out. I have about a minute window for my query to run. And the other problem is I can't filter on namespace. So when I was initially running this, I got a huge number of articles that were categories and templates. And I also got a few talk pages. So there's no way for me to like natively say, if this article is in Wikidata, it's pointing to this item. There's no way for me to filter the namespace except by literally just pruning the URL string and doing like a filter on that. But that's a very expensive operation. So the first approach that would be very slow, which I did try, was there's this high level property, which is property for an identifier that suggests notability. And what I did was, it's a recursive property. So I put an asterisk here. So I say that not just like any article that has this property, but any article that has like this property that links up to a property later on in the chain. So this could be like, there is a property that's notable that this one describes, and then we learn about it through that chain. But the problem is that expansion, there are hundreds of different properties which have this property, and running hundreds of different properties for hundreds of thousands of articles is still going to be slow. So the alternative that I decided was to use an identifier. So if I go back to the page for Earth, we have different, like, again, I haven't used Wikidata before, so this is just a bit naive. We have different like types of properties. We have statements, and if I scroll down a bit, we have we have identifiers. I think there's also demonyms somewhere as well. But the reason why I'm interested in identifiers is because I want to leverage other encyclopedias. So basically, I just thought, I just spent a few minutes, what's the biggest encyclopedia with an identifier that's covered on Wikidata that has a lot of entries in Wikidata? And my initial assessment seemed to be pointing at Encyclopedia Britannica. So it's not a great solution, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to look at all the English articles that are talking about an item which has an ID in Encyclopedia Britannica. That's how I'm going to filter my sets of articles. And that contains about 180,000 articles, which actually we can check in the query limit. So then I actually just do both of the queries. So this one gets the intersection, which is I get 2 articles, and one's in English and one's in French. And the item that they both are about is in Encyclopedia Britannica ID. And then we count that. So that's getting all the articles that are in both English and French. And the important thing here is that we don't have to use any filter or any like negation options, because that slows down the query a lot. But this can actually run for the entire 180,000 and actually like give us a useful result. And then the other query to get all of an Encyclopedia Britannica items with articles in a particular language, we basically just remove the second article and we count over this. So in these 2 examples, I get 157,000 articles in English and 127,000 in both. So then French must be missing this minus this, which is what, like about 30,000. Okay. So then what I did is I made a table in Google Sheets, and I just manually did this query for a few different languages. And yeah, this is like what I filled out. So it's like, oh, hello. Oh, I am playing something from another Wikimania session in the background. Sorry, I just got distracted. Um, yeah, I left all that stuff in the background, like to let it play, but sorry. So yeah, I've got this table. What I wanted to do was to publish it anonymously on, I'm not really familiar with how to do that. So I just searched it on like, on how to do that for Google Sheets. So there's like this link, which I think is anonymous. And then I have like this copy as well. And I'm like happy to upload that as well as, and I published the presentation as well, the spreadsheet. And like I can go in this, it's just the same thing here as well. And I just put a few filters on to sort of render this a bit differently, but like what I can see straight away is that the most missing is from the Chinese to English, just from what I did, but I only did it for a few. So, so just to summarize, that full tables 171 Wikipedias covering quite a few more languages because there's some duplicates. I'm not exactly sure how that works. Doing more than one at a time does make a timeout. So the two options I thought was, I don't know how to do a database dump. So I thought I might do that. And maybe if there's a way to use a different API to do these queries and like import it all into a CSV that I can just paste into the spreadsheet or something. And also there's this information on language group data on Meta. So like Germanic, Romance, Slavic. I don't know how this is used in Wikidata, but I think it would also be interesting to filter by that as well. And yeah, so I'm hoping like maybe in the next few weeks I'll be able to work out a way to fill this out more and get it on like so it's useful to see like which language wikis like might stand out. Maybe it's like Chinese versus English is very sparse, but Chinese versus French, like Chinese has a lot of articles that French does. I don't know how it works, but yeah, that's my presentation.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
This was wonderful.
Do
Really,
you
really
have any
informative.
questions?
Darcy, we actually have to move on to.
Oh, sorry. I probably took too much time.
No, you were wonderful. That was super informative, and I am really excited personally to go learn more. I'm so glad you shared your information in the Etherpad. But because we have more and more people joining, which is wonderful, I think we're going to need to start cutting presentations at 5 minutes. So do ask Darcy questions in the chat, and let's move on to the next presentation just to make sure everyone gets a chance. And remember, try and keep it under 5 minutes. So I think next is Connor about RubyGem for the new Wikibase REST API.
Yep. Let's see. Cool. Can you see my screen? And I guess hear me?
Yep, looks great.
Cool. So let me set a timer. My project was continuing to work on a Ruby gem that I've been working on the side for the last while. Essentially, it's for the REST API that's being built for Wikibase, and it's about just being able to pull data from Wikidata with this REST API using a simple Ruby gem. So I have this demo item on the beta Wikidata site. It has a bunch of miscellaneous stuff on it. And I have a couple small demo scripts. So essentially, demo one is just, it creates a Wikidata client. And then I've got a bunch of hard-coded the item ID and then a couple properties. And then it dumps the contents of the Wikidata item just into a big JSON blob. So it has all of the properties or all the statements on the item rendered as JSON. And this is from the way that the gem sees the data. So it can handle times, it can handle links to other Wikidata items, it can handle strings and globe coordinates and no value and unknown value statements and external IDs. So I have a couple things I can show. So it can, you can essentially just do client.item and then ID demo item 1. And then you can pull data from that, like the information about their date of birth. So it has the property and then they were born on January 1st, 2000. And then there's a reference for it, which has just a reference URL and then the retrieved at timestamp. So you can pull data like that from any item on Wikidata, and it handles all of the parsing of the JSON that you get back from the REST API. And then let's see. And you can get labels, you can get aliases. So like item label language EN, it'll give you the value for the label in that language. You can get it for all languages, but this one only has English. You can get all the aliases, the descriptions, and site links and all that stuff. And then demo 2 is about actually writing data to the item. So essentially it's just create the client and then add a statement, and you input the item ID and the property ID, and then you can create the monolingual text. So in this case, it would be like a title or title of a book or whatever you want. And then you can also do edit summaries. So let's see. The second item. So I have this second item. It has no statements, and then I think that script's finished. So after I ran that demo script, it now has this edit on it. And then I can do the same thing with deleting the statement. So in demo 3, you create the client, and then it just grabs the item and then the statements on that item for this property, and then the ID of that statement. And then we can just delete the statement, and you can pass comments, and which are edit summaries, and tags for the edit. And then if we reload this again, it's now deleted. And you can see in the history, it's got the data bridge tag and the edit summary. Yeah, let's see. And I have 7 seconds left, so I think that's good.
Awesome. Thank you for presenting, Connor. It was great to see. We're going to move on to Francesco with Who Painted This?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Let's see if I can share my screen as well, which is usually more tricky. Window. There we go. So I'm Francesco. I live in Milan, Italy. I've also recently joined the Wikimedia Foundation in the cloud services team. So I guess I took the chance of this hackathon to learn a bit more about a lot of things that I will be working on in the coming months. And one of that is Wikidata. I didn't actually have any specific idea for the hackathon. So I got the idea from Lydia, who wrote this Guess the Artist game idea. I discovered there are lots of other Wikidata games that you can find from this Fabricator task and in many other places, I guess. And this was the idea about in the new one where you could guess the artist of a painting by just seeing the painting like revealed gradually. I didn't have the time to complete like the full kind of idea where the painting appears gradually, just appears like all at once at the moment. But this was just a prototype I managed to create very quickly in one day. I should also mention that there were other people who helped with the idea and like with how it should work, and also with the implementation of the Wikidata query, including Darcy, who presented before, and other people who helped in the Telegram channel and in the IRC chat. So this is what I managed then to code. And this is basically a painting which is downloaded from Wikidata. I actually narrowed down the query. You can find the source on GitHub. I narrowed down the query to only select paintings from the Impressionist movement, both for like making the query faster, but also to get like some paintings that were vaguely possible to recognize, because otherwise if you took like all the paintings from Wikidata, most of them are like from very obscure artists that nobody probably would be able to guess. This is something that could be improved or modified. Then you have like 5 choices that of a possible artist, and I also find these from Wikidata. And then you can click on one and say, okay, it wasn't right. second one not right, let's try this one. Okay, this was the right one. And then you see also the name of the painting, and I want to add the link to Commons or to Wikidata or to Wikipedia for this painting. I haven't done it yet. And then if you want, you can play again, and a new painting will be loaded. There's a bug, as you can see, sometimes it gets like two paintings by the same artist, and so the same artist name gets displayed. This shouldn't happen. If you know how to fix it, tell me, or open a PR or an issue in the GitHub project, or just write me in the chat or in the Fabricator task, which is here and will be also linked on the chat. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Francesco. This is so great. I really love it. I feel like I wouldn't be able to guess the paintings, but maybe I should use this to learn more about art.
I got the first one, Pissarro. I love it. Okay, next steps is we're just trying to move through so that everyone has as much time as possible. Convert spreadsheet functions to source code.
Yeah, hello. I will share my screen. I hope it works. Wait, how can I do this? There. So yeah, so can you see my screen?
Francesco, I think you're still sharing your screen. Annette.
Sorry. There you go.
Yeah, can you see my screen now?
I can't. Yes, I can now. Sorry.
Good. Okay, so I have written a program, or it's still in progress, not yet ready, that can convert a spreadsheet function into the source code equivalent that does the same. And for that, I'm using programming language Erl, and I have here now a program. And when I execute that program, and I have here a frame.
Sorry, I thought I could see your screen, but actually we can't.
So you can't see my screen.
We can. I think you're sharing the wrong tab.
Yeah, we can see a screen.
So it's only one tab. Okay, then I will stop sharing. I will look. I do it again if I then can choose the right. So now I hope I think I have chosen the right thing.
Do you have more than one screen?
No. Can you see now?
Yeah.
I have now here in Calc. Yeah. Good. So there I have written a program that can convert a spreadsheet function to source code. And you can see now the spreadsheet function and then program to then do the same. So for that I have here the programming language R. So here I have executed the program and I have printed here the frame as it looks before that is calculated. Now if I calculate it and then show you again, then you will see that here it is. It calculated here the same thing as it has done in the spreadsheet. Yeah, so this is a small program. I'm still working on it and it's not yet ready. It does not really support many functions, but I will add more support for more functions. Hope that this will be useful for Wiki functions, and then through that then people can convert to Wiki functions through using spreadsheets, and the spreadsheet definitions can be then converted into other programming language. So this is the idea of this whole thing.
Awesome. Thank you for presenting. So let's move on again. And I lost my list. Where's my list? Okay, here. Next up is Scribe from Andrew.
So let me share screen really quickly. Window, there we go. Okay, so many of you, everybody is seeing the emulator, correct? Can I get a confirmation? Yes. Okay. Perfect. Thank you so much. So for those of you who don't know what Scribe is it's keyboards for second language learners. So we're seeing a German keyboard right here, but actually what this is for is for a German second language learner. Scribe is also available for many other languages, and this is fully based on Wikidata information that's coming in as far as the lexemes. We're bringing in verb conjugations and noun genders and all kinds of other interesting information to help language learners. Basically, let me just give a quick demo of like things that this keyboard can do. It can translate, so you can come in here and hit translate, and then you can put in, say, the German word for book and enter it in here, and then we get the German word for book right there. Other things that it can do, we can get the plural of a noun, or we can also conjugate a verb by putting in, say, the German word for go, which is gehen. And we come in here, and then we can see this is the present tense for the German verb to go, past tense, perfect tense, and you basically just kind of go through, and then you hit the verb that you need, and then it all works to get you the verb conjugation that you need. Specifically, what it is that we've been working on for this hackathon has been like a very, very major issue that we've been working on for a while. That has been a needed thing. Is basically adding autocomplete and autosuggest to this, which is basically fully based off of Wikidata. So Rob is also in here. Do you want to check and see if you can talk right now for the last 2 minutes or so? And there is no the Android version is in progress. So Rob, can you are you able to talk or no? Just let me know in the chat.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. So yeah, just I'll do the emulator and you can talk about what it is you did.
Yeah. Okay, so basically the main task I was working on was getting the correct words into the autocomplete. So the UI changes that you can see are mostly done by Andrew, but I wrote the function that brought the words into the correct buttons. So for that, we had to create an array of the like nouns that we have. We currently stick to nouns just to keep it simple for the hackathon. And Wikidata gives us the complete list of nouns along with a few other properties with it. So we had to extract the keys so that we just got the nouns. And then we created an array. But that was acting as a bottleneck because every time you enter a letter, you have to like get the array and then sort it again to get the alphabetical autocomplete. So for that, we basically just created the array once and sorted it outside. And the next part is like when you click on a button, the word needs to be inserted, right? So over there, we need to take care of 3 cases, which is like when you click on the button, otherwise, or if you type out the complete word yourself and then hit space, and also while deleting. So the spacebar was pretty simple. You just have to reset all the variables when the word is complete. For like when you choose a button from the autocomplete, you need to clear out the text so that it just doesn't add onto the last of the string that is already in the text bar. And for during deleting, we also need to store somewhere the previous string that was present so that it can go back to the previous state. So that's all I have worked on. So I'll just hand it over to Andrew now. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, so I'll just from here. We just wanted to show this little update. This is not going to be available on the App Store anytime. We're going to work on this and finish up some bugs in the next week or something like that, and then get this out to the users. And I'll post some links to the project into the chat so that if people are interested, you can check it out. We would love to get some support on this. As I said, we're working on the Android version. Eventually a desktop GUI. There really is a lot to be done, and it would be great to have people's support. Thanks so much.
Cool. Thank you, Andrew. Again, another cool project. That's great to see. So next up, we have maintenance script to restore revisions from old SQL dumps from Please Stand.
Okay, so I mean, I know this is the sort of thing that is like probably boring to a lot of you. I mean, with the hackathons, like usually people do things like adding new features to apps and new like tools like we've seen so far. But sometimes, there are just issues that just sit around and have not been fixed, have not been cleaned up. And one of those issues is that a number of years ago, the Wikipedias and the Wiktionaries and sites like those, the Wikimedia sites, they didn't use UTF-8 like a number of years ago because the browser support just wasn't there. But at some point they did a conversion, and unfortunately for some smaller wikis, like in particular, Spanish Wiktionary, there was actually a reported problem that the database conversion made it to where like revisions were corrupted and inaccessible. And apparently, I just happened to see like this comment on this years old report on Fabricator that, and they'll pop up on IRC with a new comment, and I looked at it and realized that the same issue with Spanish Wiktionary, which was fixed by restoring the revisions from backup, also probably happened to a Dutch Wiktionary as well. And I in the bug report, I put the links, to the various mailing list posts and things to support that. And interesting, I noticed, because it was one of these things that because like if any of you saw Lego KTM's recent talk at Hope, he mentioned about verbose pasting. I think this might have been one of those things. So on to my script, if I can share my screen. Let's see, entire screen share. Okay, so so if you see here on my screen, you see on the actual Dutch Wiktionary, you see there is a revision here of an old page. It shows something, the edit summary, and it's just completely blank. That means that the text of the revision actually was lost. And I've set up a test setup, loading an old database dumps I got from the Internet Archive Wayback Machine, and I've done a conversion to the latest MediaWiki that I've done the conversion in such a way as it would have the same issue that we're seeing on the live sites. Say, for example, I click on here, you see the same thing with the page is blank. But if you go, let's see, go to a newer one, it's blank as well. Go to a newer one, and this one, because it was the latest one at the time of that database dump, because of the way the old MediaWiki worked, it shows up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run my script. First, I need to reload use test in L Wiktionary. I'm going to reload the database dump, and then I'm going to run my script, and I've already ran the slow part already ahead of time. So I'm just running the other part of it, and this is just a quick hack. It's nowhere near ready to be merged or used on production yet. But say let's see, let's see. See now it shows up. And Well, not that one. I mean the script. I mean it obviously needs some work. Right now it only reloads, like saved revisions from like one part of the old database dumps that I had. But as I said, I mean it's not complete. It will need plenty of more work. But I heard it's okay to present unfinished work at this hackathon. So if you want any more information, you should just look at Fabricator. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you so much. It's great to see stuff like this being worked on at the hackathons as well. I think it's really cool to see. Cool. So next up we have GeoNotice map. From Lego KTM. Are you there? Yeah, there we go.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this actually started from a conversation at Wikimania a few days ago. The English Wikipedia has a system of what are called geo-notices. So on the watch list, like event organizers can target a specific region based on coordinates or country name, and show a small notice. And so if you look at the notices right now, they're all about attending Wikimania. So there was an event in Salt Lake City, in San Diego, there was a meetup in the UK, and then in New York City and Pittsburgh. And so administrators just edit this JSON page, and then their notice will show up on the watch list if your geolocation matches those regions. But as you know, if you can see, the way you specify it is you just add a bounding box of coordinates, which is not the easiest thing to get right if you've never done it before. So one of the requests was that if there could be a map that would just overlay, where each GeoNotice shows. And there actually used to be a tool that did that, and it relied on a KML, I think, and then Google Maps killed that, and then it broke. So what I did was I created the map, and it's actually just a wiki page powered by a little module. And so if you look at the map here, this is the region for the New York, Pittsburgh one, and it shows you what the message is, when it'll start, when it'll end. Over here, this is the one for the United Kingdom, and it actually uses Wikidata to draw the exact shape of the country, and there's a few more for Utah and San Diego over there. And so here's the Lua code. The way it works is that it parses the JSON page, and then it generates the GeoJSON that cartographer uses, and then it spits that out into a map frame. And so the actual source code of the map page is just invoking the Lua module. That's it. And this is mostly a learning exercise for me to learn how GeoJSON works. And the fun thing that took me about an hour to debug was that the GeoNotice, the corners syntax, is actually latitude and then longitude, whereas GeoJSON is longitude and then latitude. And once I figured out that I need to switch those two, everything worked. And that's it for me.
Thank you. That's great to see. Looks like you've got a couple of questions. Oh, Como left a question in the chat for you. Yep. Okay, moving on to Gergo, Wikimania program page improvements.
Hello. Give me a second to share my screen. Is it working?
We can see your screen, but you're currently showing the Jitsi tab.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. So there has been a recurring conversation over a number of past events about how the on-wiki schedule pages for conferences are not that easy to use because you have to do time zone conversations in your head. So I wrote a helper for that, which I hope can be integrated into future events. So this is the Wikimania schedule page with a custom user script. There is a button to show the ongoing session. There is highlighting that shows you which is the currently happening session. It's probably not easy to see, but the times are all in my local time zone. And slightly unrelated change is that we have the zone stamp tool, which is a toolforge tool which you can link to from the schedule pages and shows events in your time zone. So I added some functionality, or at least wrote a pull request. This is my local setup of zone stamp. So I added functionality so that you can add a bunch of URL parameters describing the name of the event, description of the event, and then you get a button to add it to your calendar. So instead of having to remember when events are, you can easily create, for example, a Google Calendar record of them. And this is currently a user script. If you are an administrator on the Wikimania Wiki or MetaWiki, then please reach out. I would love to turn this into a gadget that everyone can easily use. Thank you.
Cool, thank you. You think after so long that I can find the unmute button very quickly, but sometimes it still fails me. So yeah, that was very cool to see. Our next project is from Hugo, Lingua Libre.
Hugo, would you like to present? Why don't we go on to Rich's project and then we can come back to Hugo.
Maybe he's muted. Hugo, you are muted if you're speaking.
Okay, I'll give it a quick go. Let's see if I can share a screen. Right, so this is just something that I was inspired to revisit during the Wikimania. I have to say my computer seems to be very lagged at the moment. I think it's because I was just trying to unzip a 78 gig file or something. But it came up in discussion with a Japanese Wikimedian. He was asking if it was like a standard thing that people got involved more with the back end of Wikipedia rather than, I mean, he specifically was talking about things like new page patrol and things which would be in namespace, in article space. And I remembered a couple of graphs that I'd made way back in 2012 that show how over the course of thousands of, as the number of pages increased, which is fairly arbitrary. Axis time would perhaps be nicer, maybe not. The amount of bytes in article space as a percentage has gradually decreased to, well, it was 40%. I imagine now it would be a bit less, but it does look like the trend flattens out. The other graph is the number of pages in each namespace, and that seemed to be heading to 40% as well. So what I'm trying to do is just resurrect that project, and then rather than just doing it for English Wikipedia, run it for all the wiki projects and upload the graphs to Commons. I hunted down the right files in the data dumps and put together something in Perl. For the Yoruba wiki, which I chose as being fairly small, it runs fairly quickly, and I've got it to the point where it produces the data I need. So I'll just quickly show you the output from that. So this is basically saying in namespace 12, in each of these months, there were this many bytes. Then in namespace 4, there were these number of bytes in each month. I'm not 100% convinced of the figures, so one of the things I've got to do is reconcile it, which again is much, much easier to do on a small wiki like the Yoruba wiki, because I can take this namespace 5, which is the equivalent of Talk Wikipedia, and just go through I think there's about 20 pages, and they are all very small, but I'm fairly sure that there's some little wrinkle there that needs to be addressed, and whether that's my code or the database dumps, more likely to be my code. But anyway, we'll get to the bottom of that. This is the number of edits. So in namespace 0, you can see how many edits there were in a particular month. And then it's just hard work to convert that into a graph. So that wasn't bad for an hour or so's work. Outstanding tasks. I wrote it in Perl because I've done this sort of thing before. I'm going to convert it to Python, partly because I can use libraries to do some of the things I've done, which will be easier for other people to understand. Verify the data, as I mentioned, and the plan is for it to be SVGs rather than PNGs, which are what I used before, which are both easier to create and far more scalable. Read direct from the compressed files. I just spent 8 minutes trying to extract the Japanese file. Stub meta history is the file in question, and I'm pretty sure that the English Wikipedia file extracted wouldn't fit on my laptop, so it's quite important to do that. It also seems to be faster. I mean, back in the days of spinning Rust, it was faster to read from the compressed files, and it takes a stage out. It needs a key. The images, I mean, it's like article namespace, and then that's talk, article talk, and I think that's user and that's user talk. But at the time, I was really just interested in this one factor, so I didn't create legends. So it needs legends, and then also fetch the data files, and also upload everything at the end. So a lot more to do than has been done, maybe by a factor of 10. But since it's only taken about an hour or so to do what I've done, it's maybe another weekend's work. So, bit of fun. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That's great. I'm impressed that you were able to do this while hanging out in the social room. We were yesterday.
We can start the
live stream is on.
Okay.
We should be good again.
Okay, I can start. Okay, so I'm not sure. I don't find how to share the right windows. I think it's this. Hello. Okay. I hope you can see me, but I'm not sure. Can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
I allow it, but my browser don't want it. It's Firefox. I don't know what is going on. Okay. Anyway, so I will present you what our team made. So on the French team, we are working on Lingua Libre, which is a software to audio record the vocabulary of all languages of the world. And because in the past, that's a project which is already 4 years old, and we expanded a lot in the past 4 years. So we had new bugs because we have new user on mobile and on poor internet and this kind of situation. So we had to make a refreshing of our project. So on the pad, I listed the things and the team. We were 4 people who gathered in Paris for 4 days. The week prior, because of schedulings, and we worked on several things. Notably, we restored the statistics of the project, so now we can see the numbers and of our project. On the data sets, it's a page where developer can download all the audio we have, and also on the sound library, which is our search engine for browsing our audio file. After that, we also added some feature, and most notably, we worked on Lingua Libre Signet. It's a derivative project from Lingua Libre, which focus on sign language. So we also Lingua Libre also allow to record videos of words. So if you come with a French sign language, you can turn on your camera, sign, and that create one video for your word, and you can create something like 400 words per hour. So that's very productive. And we have a small add-on on Firefox. I encourage you to try it because I cannot demo it right now on screen. But it's you go on Google, Lingua Libre Signet for Firefox, and you find an add-on, you can install it, and then you can translate French word into sign language video. This project was started because we had some Wikimedian contributor who wanted to learn sign language to communicate with their young babies, and so we have a positive experience on that side with Wikipedians communicating with their young son and 2 sons. Before the baby can be verbal, they were communicating in sign language. So that allows the kids to be more happier because they are able to communicate with their parents before their vocal cord can express what they are thinking about. There is also many other use cases for sign language that can be used in a noisy environment, like bars or other situation, conference, and these kind of things. So I think it's an interesting language to promote, also for inclusivity, of course. And the signing apps is it's a web extension. It's really easy to take in hand. I mean, on the developer side, I'm not a professional developer, but I took this web extension in hand in something like 2 days, and I was able to add feature and things like that. So if you are interested to work on JavaScript web extension, you are welcome to join the project. And I will try again, if I have few seconds more, to share my screen. I would like to share it, but I'm not sure I can.
Hugo, if there's something you'd like to share, you can put it in the chat and maybe I can share my screen.
Yeah, but you have to install the add-on, which will take something like 1 minute or something like that.
Okay.
Firefox. Okay, that's a Firefox limitation. So I now read a small message, so I'm not allowed to share my screen. Okay, I will chat with you on the chat. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Hugo. That was wonderful. That was an incredible list of projects. Something that really stood out to me was how international our community is and how many of these projects we're working on trying to make it easier for people who speak different languages around the world to engage with each other. I think that's wonderful, and that totally speaks to what our community is. Please do take a look at the Etherpad where people have linked a lot of their contact information. There's also a long list of projects from the Indic Hackathon. We will move those to on Wiki, and then we'll share that link in the social channels, because again, there's some really incredible projects. And the reason people put these projects out is because, you know, they want people to come and find them and collaborate with them. So don't hesitate at all to reach out to people if there's a project you're interested in. Now I'm going to share my screen again and loop back to a couple important things. The first being feedback. We'd love your feedback on this hackathon. I will share this link again in the chat. If you have feedback, do feel free to add it in. We'd love to hear from you. And now, just looping back again, ways to stay involved. We discussed this at the beginning. Some people might have missed them. But small wiki toolkits workshops, the developer portal, outreachy mentors and projects, and finally social spaces. We'd love to continue to interact with all of you throughout the year.
And finally, we just wanted to say thank you. Yeah, this event was created by the community for the community. So thank you to the many community members who helped organize Wikimania. Thank you to everyone who worked on the project the last 3 days, to everyone who presented their projects here. It was really great to see. It's always cool to see the different things that people come up with. And yeah, thank you to everyone that's offered a technical or social session the past 2 days, to the people who attended this for their first time, and to the people that were helping newcomers. It's, again, different ways that people are getting involved, and it's really cool to see.
And in particular, people who stayed up really late and got up really early. I know that that's a lot of you here. People who were monitoring IRC and Telegram, and joining from Jitsi and Feedloop and YouTube and all the different places that Wikimania was taking place. Thank you all. This was your event, and it really was a wonderful experience. So again, please do stay in touch. We'll be sharing some information in various channels soon enough about where you can find these recordings and how to give feedback. But again, thanks a lot, and we hope to see you throughout the year at other events.